A thread from Undercover Huber. Quote, "The applicable precedents are clear and unambiguous. There is simply no basis upon which this court can review and deny the government's motion to dismiss, to which the defense has consented." Thread on excellent Leslie McAdoo Gordon's amicus brief filed in the General Flynn case. Note, this amicus brief is signed by approximately 30 federal practitioners, a bipartisan group of attorneys with extensive experience in the federal court system, including prosecutors, government attorneys, FBI agents, state attorneys general, law clerks, judges, and even congressmen. Quote, "Where a court denies a consented motion to dismiss under Rule 48, it is overriding the executive's exercise of discretion and thereby is usurping the executive's authority. The separation of powers precludes a court from second-guessing the prosecutor's exercise of discretion, regardless of the considerations that prompt the executive branch's decision. The argument of other amici thus runs headlong into the separation of powers. They are urging this court to do exactly what the federal court has specifically said it cannot do. Amici who style themselves as former Watergate prosecutors incorrectly assert, at least twice in their brief to the D.C. Circuit, that an order of conviction has been entered, e.g., the court has issued an order accepting Flynn's plea. The docket is devoid of any such order. Some amici argue that DOJ's Rule 48 motion comes too late in the day and that there is no precedent for dismissing after a guilty plea has been secured. The Supreme Court decision in Rinaldi constitutes ample precedent. Further, in United States v. Stevens, numbered 08-231, this court, Sullivan, granted the government's Rule 48 motion to set aside the jury's guilty verdict and dismiss the case. The ultimate flaw in the analyses of amici is that they are result-driven. The court must be guided by neutral principles of law. Here the law is clear. Unless the government is abusing the defendant, which is certainly not the case here, the court has merely a ministerial act to perform. It grants leave to dismiss. The court is never a partisan for either the prosecution or the defense. It must never assume the mantle of prosecutor or defense counsel. There is no basis for the court to order General Flynn to show cause why he should not be held in contempt for perjury. Withdrawing a plea or attempting to do so is not contemptuous conduct as a matter of law. The other arguments against dismissal advanced by amici are equally spurious. For example, it is contended that General Flynn's admissions of guilt establish his culpability and furnish a basis for the court to require the case to proceed. But General Flynn had moved to withdraw his plea prior to the government's motion to dismiss, and the government, in moving to dismiss, has explained in detail why it no longer believes that the evidence supports a criminal conviction in this case. All of the foregoing issues likely could have been avoided had the information about the FBI investigation that has now spurred the government's Rule 48 motion been disclosed to General Flynn and his counsel before he originally entered his guilty plea. The information which the government disclosed about the FBI's conduct of the investigation was within its exclusive possession. There is simply no way that General Flynn could have known or uncovered these facts, which undermined an essential element of the charge against him, without the government providing them to him. This is the paradigm of why the Constitution requires the government to disclose such information to the defense. Viewed from a big-picture perspective, the government's motion to dismiss was a product of the court's ongoing effort through its standing Brady order to promote justice by requiring the government at all stages of a criminal proceeding to examine its case and disclose information that may affect a defendant's guilt or punishment. As such, the government's motion is a successful and just outcome.